Today we are doing the third set of notes in radicals, and we're going to be talking about solving radical equations. So for our first problem, we are going to start by moving the 5. So we want to get this part by itself as much as possible. So to do that, we will subtract 5 from both sides. So we get x plus 7 raised to the 1/2 power equals -2. And now to get both sides, we are going to raise both sides to the reciprocal. So to do that, I'm going to raise both sides to the reciprocal of this fraction, which will become 2/1. When I do that, again, one of the rules that we talked about over the past couple of days is that if I have a power raised to a power, I multiply them. Well, this right here, when I do 1 times 2, I get 2, and in the bottom I'll get 2. So 2/2 will cancel out and leave me with just 1. So on the left side, I'm left with x plus 7. On the right side, when I do a -2 squared, I will get positive 4. And I subtract 7, and we get x equals 3. Now, you're going to notice that the directions say check for extraneous solutions. So we will have to do the check. So when I plug this in, I have 3 plus 7 raised to the 1/2 power. You know what? I messed up. -3. Coming over here, -3 plus 7 raised to the 1/2 power plus 5, and I want to know if it equals 3. -3 plus 7 is 4. 4 raised to the 1/2 power means the square root of 4, which is 2. And on the left side, we get 7, and on the right side, I get 3, which is not a true statement. So we would label this as an extraneous solution, which means the answer to this problem is actually no solution. Now, you could have figured that out at this step right here. When I'm square rooting a number, I will never be able to get a negative value. So if I ever have a square root or 1/2 power involved and it's equal to a negative, the answer is automatically going to be no solution. Letter B, we are in radical form, so we are going to start by dividing both sides by 3, and I get the square root of 2x minus 3 equals to 3. And the opposite of square rooting is squaring, so I'm going to raise both sides to the 2nd power. When I do that, the square root and the squared cancel, and I'm left with 2x minus 3. On the right side, we will get 9. We add 3 to both sides. I get 2x equals 12. Divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 6. But again, we want to check to make sure this answer works. So I come back to the original problem. And I have 3 times the square root of 2 times 6 minus 3. And I need to see if this will equal 9. So I have 3 times the square root of 12 minus 3, which will become the square root of 9. And the square root of 9 is 3. And I get 3 times 3 is 9. And I needed the problem equal to 9. So this checks out. So 6 is the answer. I will keep that answer. So go ahead and try the 2 practice problems listed below. So now we're going to kind of step it up a notch. Again, solving exponential and radical equations. So I will begin by dividing by 3. I am left with the quantity of x plus 1 raised to the 2/3 power, and this is equal to 4. So because we're in exponential form, we are going to raise both sides to the reciprocal, which will be 3/2. Again, on the left side, they're going to cancel, and I'm left with x plus 1. On the right side, I'm going to convert this back to radical form. So this would be the square root of 4 cubed. And we always talked about that. I want to take the square root first to make it smaller. So the square root of 4 is 2, but then I'm still left with 2 cubed. So my answer will be 8. Subtract 1 from both sides, and I get x equals 7. Again, before we can determine if this is the actual solution, we're going to do a quick check. So I have 3 times the quantity of 7 plus 1 raised to the 2/3 power. So this will become 3 times 8 to the 2/3 power. I'm going to convert this back into radical form. The cube root of 8 is equal to 2. I'm coming up here because I'm running out of room. So that becomes 2, but the squared will stay. So the squared from right there will stay. We do exponents first, so 2 squared is 4. 3 times 4 is 12, and that checks out because that is what I needed it to equal. For letter B, we're now in radical form. So I'm going to start by subtracting 1 from both sides. So I have 3 times the 5th root of x plus 1 cubed equals 24. We're going to divide both sides by 3. So now I'm at the 5th root of x plus 1 cubed equals 8. Now, to make life easier, I'm going to convert this to exponential form. So on the left side, I'm going to have x plus 1 raised to the 3/5 power. And again, this is going back to the first set of notes. If you need to look back for a refresher, remember these two numbers make up my fraction. Now, I'm going to raise both sides to the reciprocal. So the reciprocal becomes 5/3. They cancel, and I'm left with x plus 1. The right side, I'm going to rewrite it as radical form. You don't have to do this. You can always evaluate this on your own in your head if you feel like you can. This inside number will be giving me 2. So I will get 2, but that is still to the 5th power, which is 32. And then we subtract 1 from both sides, and I get x equals 31. So go ahead and try the 2 practice problems below. So for the back page, you're going to notice slightly different is that we have variables on both sides. So again, if I want to get rid of the radical, I'm going to raise both sides to the 2nd power. It's super important that you write the quantity in parentheses squared. On the left side, the radical and the squared cancel, and I'm left with 12x plus 7. On the right-hand side, I have 2x squared. This means 2x times 2x, which gives me 4x squared. Now I need to get both sides equal to 0, so I will be subtracting 12x, and I will be subtracting 7. None of these are like terms on the right-hand side, so it will just be 4x squared minus 12x minus 7. And if you have not already been thinking this, you should realize that that lovely factoring that I told you will never go away all year is coming back. So to factor, we do a times c. When I do that, I get negative 28. Now we need to figure out what multiplies to be negative 28 and what will add to be 12, negative 12. The combination we want to use is 2 and a negative 14. For those of you who like the box method, you will draw your box. You're going to put your 4 terms in the box. So the 4x squared goes in the top left, the negative 7 goes in the bottom right, and the combination that you found will go in the other 2 boxes. You are now going to find the outside. For those of you who like the grouping method, you will write 4x squared plus 2x minus 14x minus 7. And again, you will group the first 2 and you group the second 2. So pause the video and take a moment, finish factoring, and then resume when you have factored. If you factored correctly, you should get 2x minus 7 and 2x plus 1. But because there's an equal sign and the directions say solve or find the solutions, I need to set both of these binomials equal to 0. So let me write this up here. So I will add 7 over, and I get 2x equals 7. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 7/2. For the other one, I have 2x plus 1 equals 0. So I will subtract 1 from both sides. I get 2x equals -1. Divide both sides by 2, and your other answer is -1/2. Before you try letter B, in the practice there is a typo in letter B. You are going to change the square root, that 19x to be a 17. So please change letter B, change the 19 to become 17. So our last example, again, is radical form. We're going to start by adding the 5 over. I will be left with the square root of x plus 7 equals the quantity of x plus 5. To get rid of the square root, I will raise both sides to the second power. So the left side cancels, I'm left with x plus 7. When I have the quantity of something squared, I will write it twice, and this is where you're going to FOIL or do the box method. So those of you who FOIL, you'll FOIL here. If you do the box method, you will do the box, and you're going to put them on the outside. So go ahead and hit pause, go ahead and FOIL and combine like terms. Hit resume when you are ready. If you did it correctly, you will get x squared plus 10x plus 25. And now I need to get this equal to 0. So to do that, I will subtract x, and I will subtract 7. I'm now left with 0 equals x squared plus 9x plus 18. And now we're going to get into factoring. So a times c is 18. The combination we need to use for 18 is going to be 6 and 3. So for those of you who group, you'll do x squared plus 6x plus 3x plus 18. Those of you who do the box method, you're now putting them on the inside, same 4 terms. Go ahead and find the outside. If you factored correctly, you should get x plus 6 and x plus 3, which means your two answers are -6 and a -3.